There's a place in Worcester, Massachusetts, where even the bravest locals refuse to venture after dark. Perched atop a desolate hill, obscured by thick trees and jagged shadows, lies an abandoned mental hospital. The building itself is a skeleton, hollow, crumbling, and weathered by decades of neglect. Its windows are shattered, the walls stained by time and graffiti, and the front gate leans awkwardly as if the earth beneath it is slowly reclaiming the land. But those who grew up in Worcester know the stories. They've heard the warnings passed down like folklore, whispered in hushed tones at campfires and sleepovers. The hospital isn't just abandoned, it's cursed. Once every 5 years, on the same night without fail, something strange happens in the hospital's courtyard. A rusted box spring appears, old and fragile, like it was pulled from the wreckage of another time. It rests in the center of the overgrown grass, beneath the cold gaze of the building's shattered windows. Nobody knows where it comes from, but its presence lingers like a wound on the landscape. The legend claims that if someone dares to sleep on that box spring through the night, something or someone will come for them at dawn. Few have ever tried. Fewer still have spoken about it. Most who visit the hospital do so out of curiosity. They creep through the gates during daylight, snapping photos, hoping to capture something unsettling to post online. But occasionally, someone hears the story and can't resist the call. On one such autumn night, the wind howled through the twisted branches as a lone figure slipped through the rusted gates. His name was Michael, a skeptic who believed the stories were nothing more than urban legends designed to scare teenagers. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and a thick blanket, Michael set out to prove the legend false. He found the box spring exactly where the stories described, silent and waiting in the courtyard. Its coils groaned beneath his weight as he lay down, staring at the empty sky above. The hospital loomed around him, its broken silhouette a reminder that this place had been forgotten by time. As the hours passed, Michael's nerves began to fray. The wind whispered through the grass, and faint noises echoed from the building, but he forced himself to stay. He wouldn't let fear win. Eventually, exhaustion overtook him, and Michael drifted into a restless sleep. When the first rays of sunlight crept over the horizon, Michael opened his eyes. The courtyard was bathed in cold light, and for a moment he felt relief. The legend was just a story after all. But then he saw him. Standing at the edge of the courtyard was a man. His posture was rigid, his features obscured by the rising sun behind him. He wore a faded shirt with the words, "Observe and Absolve," printed across the chest in peeling letters. Michael sat up, heart pounding in his chest. The man said nothing as he stepped forward, reaching into his pocket. From his worn wallet, he pulled out a single photograph and held it out to Michael. Michael's hand trembled as he took the photo. It was a picture of himself, but not as he was now. This photo showed him in the moment of his death. The details were unmistakable. The same jacket, the same frightened eyes staring directly into the lens, and behind him, partially obscured in the shadows, was the same man who now stood before him. Michael's breath caught in his throat as he looked up from the photo. The man hadn't moved. His eyes were fixed on Michael, unblinking, as if waiting for something. Michael dropped the picture and ran. He sprinted from the courtyard, his footsteps echoing through the empty hallways of the hospital, until he burst through the front gate and into the town below. But the legend is clear. Running doesn't help. Days passed, then weeks. Michael tried to forget the encounter, but the photograph haunted his every waking moment. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the man standing there watching. And then, one evening, Michael vanished. The authorities found no trace of him, no struggle, no sign of forced entry, just a photograph left behind on his bedside table, depicting a shadowy figure standing over his sleeping form. The man in the observe and absolve shirt was never seen again. But the hospital still waits on the hill, and in 5 years the box spring will return to the courtyard, and someone else will answer the call.